And our question at this time concerns just who can be an apostle. Specifically, we've been asked the question, are there any living apostles today? And that's a very good question to ask, because there are those today who claim to be apostles. There are those who claim to be as if to succeed, if you will, or to go through and be in the lineage, if you will, of apostles. And yet when we look to the Bible, it's just not that way. First of all, understand that the word apostle, there's nothing magical about the word apostle. The word apostle just means one sent. So someone sent equals the apostle. An example of this is Hebrews chapter 3 and verse 1. In Hebrews 3 verse 1, it calls Jesus Christ an apostle. Well, the reason, of course, that Jesus is an apostle, well, sure he was. He was sent by God to this earth. John 3:16, God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son. Whosoever believeth in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. And so, Jesus Christ being sent to this world, to live in this world, to die on the cross, and to resurrect the third day, and so forth, that has him, of course, being an apostle. He was one sent. Of course, we recognize the 12 apostles, those 12 chosen by Jesus Christ, who then would go out into the world. They also were those who were sent. First of all, they were sent to the lost sheep of the house of Israel, and you read about that in the book of Matthew and in the book of Luke, for example. But then later on, they're sent to the whole world, such as you read about in Matthew 28 and 19 and 20, Mark 16, 15 and 16, and so forth. They are again sent out into the world. And so to think about that word apostle just means one sent. But, of course, one says, well, what we're talking about is the idea that one has the powers of the apostles. They can perform miracles, and they have various abilities and so forth. And maybe God's talking to them. Maybe they claim special revelations and so forth like that. And that's why I said a moment ago, there are no living apostles of that nature or in that way. There simply were not powers, or there simply were not any apostles who were then enabled with those abilities, such as the 12 had, or later on, like Matthias would have, the Apostle Paul, of course, he comes along in Acts chapter 9 and so forth. There's none that have those abilities or powers, miraculous powers and so forth. They don't have it, period. And I state with full confidence and full, there's just no way around it, okay? I'm fully confident and know I will not be proven wrong. There's no way that there's anyone today who has those abilities of the apostles. The reason why, 1 Corinthians chapter 13, 8 to 10 says those powers went away. And beyond that, you look at the book of Acts chapter 1. Do we know there is no apostolic succession? That's the idea, apostolic succession, or following through their lineage, on down through. Well, in the book of Acts chapter 1, we read what it takes to be an apostle, such as the 12 apostles, original 12, such as Matthias, such as the Apostle Paul. What does it take to be an apostle? In Acts chapter 1, it says it was those people who, the Bible says, here, those who had seen Christ, he said, that they had seen Christ or had seen him after his resurrection. It says, and I'll read this to you, in Acts chapter 1, and we'll begin reading in verse 17. It says that he was numbered with us, he obtained a part of the ministry. It says there, and this is concerning Judas, and then how that he had bought a field, the field of blood. Then as they were choosing, verse 22, beginning from the baptism of John to the same day that he was taken up from us, must one be ordained to be a witness with us of his resurrection. Acts 1 verse 22 says, you must have been alive during the days of the baptism of John, and to the same day he was taken up from us, we must be one who is a witness of his resurrection. So there's two basic things here, two basic qualifications. One is you had to have been alive during the days of John the Baptist. Number two, to have been there to have seen Jesus, the resurrected Christ. And so when you look at this, the only ones who could qualify were those who were living in the days of the first century, such as the original 12. Matthias would have fit this. The Apostle Paul would have fit this because his life extended back into the days of John the Baptist, and he saw the resurrected Christ as well. He saw him, Acts chapter 9 explains that. 1 Corinthians 15, he said, Jesus was last of all seen of me as one born out of due time. And so whenever I think about the apostles, are there any living apostles today that are upon this earth? Absolutely not. There's nobody that could meet those qualifications. And so the apostles served their purpose. They did what the Lord said to do. They fulfilled their work. And now we have the written record. And we can use the apostles' record, we can use the apostles' writings to know the truth, to believe the truth, to obey the truth, and follow the Lord, and one day be in heaven.